Okay, so the application is a command line application that I maintain called Yobu, B-Y-O-B-U, and it's basically a window manager for text interfaces. So the audience is anyone who has to do work on a command line. So it's not a graphical application, it's a command line application. And that might be in a terminal, or it might be actually on a physical, in a server room, a physical TTY. The difference between the two is if I open a tab, this is a normal terminal, and I can do things in this terminal, like list things or run a program like top SSH to another system or something like that, right? The advantage of Yobu is several different things. One is the line at the bottom of the screen, which hopefully gives some statistics and context of what's going on this system. It's also the ability to do a number of other different things. To take this one shell and make it two shells, so split the screen and splitting horizontally and vertically, and doing that a few times. And then moving between these shells so that I might look up some documentation, and then over here maybe I'm running a program, and then in here I'm editing some code, for instance. All of this on the same system. Now, I've got maybe the things you can help me with. I have key bindings, but I have a hard time sometimes teaching users how to use those key bindings, right? Because there's no mouse involved here. It's all got to be hotkeys. The second thing is I don't know if like the information across the bottom is useful, but it maybe could use an eye for design here. I'm happy to explain the bits and pieces, but I don't know how we do this, so I'll pause there.
Okay, so give us a scenario under which a user would use this. So what are you doing? What are you thinking?
So this is a bit like Alt-Tab servers, okay? So you've got a task switcher effectively there. You've got many things happening. Generally, you spend most of your life logged into a remote server. So what you're doing is you're Alt-Tabbing around the remote server. Or you're splitting the windows on the remote server so you can see two things on the remote system.
Right.
It's also like a tree map layout.
A tree map layout.
You kind of assign the biggest size for the important task, and then you can actually have.
Yeah, and actually there's different ways of arranging this. So one of the key things is like F5 normally refreshes the screen, and that's what F5 does. It refreshes all these status things at the bottom. If you hit Shift F5, it'll rearrange those windows. So you press it once and it'll do them all vertically. Second time it'll do them all horizontally. A third time you can get that one main one at the top and then a bunch of little ones across the bottom. You keep doing that, you can get one big one down here. Maybe your source code reads better vertically. You've got other things kind of horizontally. You can keep, there's like 6 different layouts and it'll cycle through. So you do that until you find the one that fits your scenario best.
But you lost the initial setup, which was the one a bit more organic that you just created.
Right, exactly. I lost that one. I don't have a good way. I guess I could save that layout so that you go through these preset ones and your other one. Now you can resize these. If you press Control up or down, you can move things around. If I go to the window I want, I can.
How do you do Alt-Tab? How do you switch from one to another?
Shift and up and down move between the splits. So I'm just using Shift and then the arrow key, and then you see the little numbers pop up, and one's in red, and that's the active one. You can also do a Control A and then the number. So if I want to go to, if I see the top one's 0, I think I can go Control A, 0. I need to check that key binding. I don't even know that one myself, but that's something really new.
So I spend most of my life in something very similar, and you might have seen it briefly in the previous session when I had my terminal up. And I generally run full screen, but to Alt-Tab I hit Control V, Control V. Many other people hit Control A, Control A. But there's normally some mapping like that.
Okay, so do you have people using this already?
Oh yeah.
How many people?
It's the default interface in the Ubuntu images in the cloud. So anyone who SSHs into a session in the cloud as of 11.10 is in an environment very similar to this. This is the latest and greatest. It's on one revision or a couple of versions behind that. But because it isn't a text interface that we put in front of our cloud users, that's why I thought maybe you guys have.
Quite often they don't use it. They don't even know what is coming to do.
You can't call a view for all binaries.
You can't call a view.
You can't call a list of all the key binaries that you have for it.
Yeah, there is actually. There's a menu and there's a help and a quick start guide. This needs some more information since this split screen stuff has been added. But I mean, there is help. One of the problems, I'd like to put that help under F1, but when you press F1 in GNOME Terminal takes over that key and it says, here's how to use GNOME Terminal. I think that's a little bit dated, and that F1 should probably pass from GNOME Terminal down into the application. I mean, there's nothing actually useful in the GNOME Terminal help. I mean, there's nothing here no one can. I mean, there's really nothing in here that's useful. I don't think. It would be nice if F1 were passed to whatever your shell, or in a terminal, if that were passed to the shell itself. That's my opinion. And then I could throw up the help and show those key bindings, if that makes sense.
The question is, I wonder, why did we pick this software for the specific case of the remote?
Because if you SSH into, you know what SSH is, I mean, if you go into a remote system, normally you just get something that looks like this. In fact, give me a minute and I'll fire up a session and you'll see what the cloud experience looks like.
So the interface will appear on our terminal. Also, if our terminal is not.
It's more like you can only do one thing at a time by default in a terminal. What this does is it allows you to do many things all through that one pipe, through that one session to your remote system. And so this is a multiplexer.
So this is installed on the server, not on the client. So the client, I connect with SSH and I can use it. Because
SSH is your client. That's all your client is SSH.
So now you're using a normal terminal and you're connecting to that.
Right. Cloud Sandbox is a wrapper I have that starts a machine. This is going to be the current Oneric machine in the cloud. And in a minute, I'm going to SSH into it automatically. This is just ignore that. That's a helper script that I have.
But the client here is already your software?
Yes. No. The client is GNOME Terminal.
Okay.
GNOME Terminal plus SSH.
Okay.
That's the client.
All right. Okay.
So GNOME Terminal is a web browser here, and then you're about to SSH into another website, right? Effectively. Yeah. So, and then in that website there might be multiple pages or multiple actions that you can take at the same time.
Okay, so this is the default cloud experience. Now note that there's 2 lines at the bottom instead of 1. Like I said, this is the older version that's in 11.10. I've gone forward to the newer version, but that's fine. We can work from this. You get some information across the top. Welcome to Ubuntu 11.10. The documentation's here. This part comes from something called Landscape, which is a product from Canonical. You can graph and manage this data from Landscape. You can buy cloud support at this address. Some of this stuff is only printed once for just the first time you get there, like this. This is introduces this thing. If you go to this address, it can bring you straight to help, which is an Ubuntu documentation page. And I tell people how to opt in and out, so you can type disable and enable. So just for grins here, let me turn it off for a second. Nope, don't terminate. And if for instance, the alternative is if you're not using Yobu, this is what your experience is. That's it. Now you're in the cloud. Okay. If you want another instance, because let's say you're already running one program and you want to run another program, you have to open up another shell and you have to go into here, and now you want to start doing some work. But now you've got 2 tabs up here, in the top right, you've got 2 tabs. And if either of those sessions die, you lose your work in the session. Instead, if you're in this environment and you want to run multiple windows, you see the windows across the bottom. Now in here you're running a top, and in here you're running something else, and you move back and forth amongst these. More importantly, from a server and a cloud perspective, when you disconnect, so I hit F6 to disconnect, and I exit, and then half an hour later I go home, I've got a job running here, maybe I'm building something, I go back in and I run it again, the same thing has been running in the background the whole time. So, I mean, I guess that's kind of the introduction to the software. I'm not trying to teach you how to use this, but I want you to help.
Sounds very cool. Well, my mother won't use it. But,
You what?
my mother wouldn't use it.
Your mother wouldn't use it, correct?
No, it's okay. So,
If your mother does use it, I want to meet her.
no, it's really powerful. So your problem is that you provide this really powerful software, but people are not really aware about the potentialities, basically.
And some people resist it. It's not met with enthusiasm in some places, and I'd like to get to the heart of what that is. If it's a design issue, if there's something that could be improved design-wise, or if it's just fundamentally not going to catch with some people.
I think what I can say that probably you know better your users than us, I guess. So if you say they don't like it, or you should try to investigate, why.
So, what do they say? Do you get any feedback?
Paul, you've been around some of these discussions, it seems like. To some people, it's in the way. To some people, they don't like losing those two lines at the bottom. This is a large screen right here. If I, how do I make it not full screen? Here we go. If it's a 85 by 20, this is a standard size terminal. Standard meaning ancient Unix has traditionally been 80 by 25. That's how big most people's terminal is usually. Things are a little crowded. There's a lot going on here. It tends to run off the edge. You can see the dot, dot, dot. You lose 2 out of 25 lines across the bottom. I've reduced that by just using one in the newer version of this.
So first of all, dot, dot, dot is a single symbol. It's 2026 Unicode, and therefore you can get 2 characters back.
So I appreciate that. Now, the older version does not support Unicode. That's one of the major reasons why I've transitioned to.
So if you look at that one, you sort of tried to put the Ubuntu logo in here, just as a single U in the bottom, and in the new one you've got
yeah. So here, that's the Ubuntu logo. Actually, it's visually the U and the Ubuntu logo is right there.
You should probably just have the circle of friends.
What's that?
Just the circle of friends, I think, rather than the U.
If you delete this, if I delete that, all it looks like is a pizza.
just a dot.
It's
You can have it bigger though.
No, you can't. This is the thing. All of this stuff you see here is made out of text. There's no graphical lines or anything here. It's a grid with text in it.
I'll show you what that. Actually, this is great. We can play with this even if that's the sort of things you're interested in trying. But if I remove the U and I just put circle of friends, it looks like that.
But there's a bigger one included in the font as well, isn't there? That's the logo.
I couldn't find.
Where's the Unicode?
There's a bigger one.
There is a one.
Proportion.
Yeah.
The problem we have here
These are monospace.
is this box is this big. That logo is taking the full width of the box. You can't make it any bigger. So you can't. I mean, this is the thing. You're in a very restricted environment that everything you do has to fit in this.
Yeah, but there's
Well, when it had a letter next to it, it was bigger.
I,
When it had U next to it,
we have a big logo.
the 2 more
that
spaces.
looks more. This looks more Ubuntu U, and then the raised friends mark.
Stick both in. Stick a U and then stick U and logo and then stick logo.
Say that again.
Just this string here. Just put a single U, then a couple of spaces, then U logo, and then a couple of spaces, and then just logo on its own. You can see all 3.
U, the logo, and U with the logo.
Yeah.
It's not a big logo. Yeah, that's what I thought. Do you have a big logo?
We've got a new version of it, which is
Okay,
probably going to be better.
Those are
better.
those 3 options. What's that? I can, but then yeah, we lose a lot of that horizontal space.
Why do we need the logo there?
For screenshots, really. When this shows up in a magazine or a journal or something like that, and someone's showing how to do something, and at the bottom, boom, you've got the Ubuntu logo and 1110. That's much better than the alternative, which is when someone takes an Ubuntu screenshot from a terminal perspective, and this is what you have.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you get these icons, but that gets cut out a lot of times. On the other hand, when they take a screenshot and it has something like this, it looks like Ubuntu. It's obviously
Yeah.
Ubuntu.
Yeah, but element 10 is not obviously Ubuntu, no.
No.
What's that?
Element 10 is not
The
obviously.
numbers, yeah.
You're better off actually.
They can be together.
You need to show the version number.
All of these can be toggled, so that you can toggle any of those on and off. So I can come in here and remove the release, and that goes away and get that space back. When I SSH into one of my 100 machines in the cloud, there's a few things I want to know about it. One, what distro I'm running. It's always Ubuntu for me, but for some people it's different things. What version, maybe with the time and date and the memory and the CPU utilization. That's what all that other stuff is happening down there.
How do you get to this?
F9.
So how do you know that it's F9?
Great questions.
Well, that's, I think, the big question that
Yeah,
it's asking
that's
is
the
like,
big
how do
question.
you reveal,
Yeah.
how do you reveal?
So, well, you've got this space at the bottom that we've
shortcuts to
got stuff in there. You could just have F9 and then maybe that's something they can hide.
So this is the
Flag.
old version. When I had 2 lines to play with, to the far right,
Oh, okay, yeah.
it says menu colon F9.
Yeah.
And did anyone tell you, did anyone say, I mean, when you got rid of the second line, what was the idea? To save space? Because people had complained that it was taking up too much room.
Two reasons. There were people who complained it was taking too much room. The second reason is that the technology that's used to render this is called Screen, and the technology used to render the other one is called Tmux. Screen's about 25 years old and hasn't released in going on 6 years. It's a dead project. Tmux is new and really active, and it's a much healthier technology. And it doesn't support 2 lines.
Okay.
Why don't you allow the 2 lines for a new user, but then, once you know how to switch it off, then hopefully the person switching it off has already learned some of the key bindings by that point.
Yeah, that's a good idea using the old technology. The new technology, Tmux, only supports a single line at the bottom, so we've got to be a little bit more compressed. Yeah, that's probably true. We lose some
the
things.
man sudo text we put up very first time.
Yeah,
Until somebody has successfully used sudo,
right.
we show a dummy guide every
Right.
time. Well, could we perhaps put until the first time they've activated setup or help,
Right.
for every time this loads for the first time,
You'll
maybe
see
for
that.
1 second, show F1 or F9 or something.
Yeah, that's easy to do. You saw the intro message which says, it's a window manager, here's how you get some help on it. You click that link and you read that page. It takes 5 minutes and then you're an expert. That could be...
My temptation would be to try and maybe exaggerate that F1 message by minimizing everything else that you show on the first run. So the introduction, perhaps move that initial introduction, which is too big to get read, into the F1 and concentrate the whole message on. If you're a first-time user...
So maybe F1 is something you guys could help me with. Like I said, F1 here pulls up GNOME terminal help, which I think that's... I don't think that's... everyone knows you press F1 for help, right? Or more or less. That's not something you have to train someone on. Once they've been around a computer for a while, F1 equals help. The thing is that I would rather F1 help what's inside of GNOME terminal and not F1 terminal.
Yeah, but I think,
itself.
if someone is a power user enough, to use a terminal, he would know that the F1 is just for the client. This is the client, this is the software you're using. It would be like if you had Solitaire opening and you press F1 and the Unity help comes up. That's the equivalent. Would you expect the Unity to help to come up if you're in Solitaire? Or would you want contextual Solitaire help? The situation that Dustin is describing is basically the same as if I have Solitaire open and I press F1 and the Unity help comes up and it says Unity is blah blah blah. Was actually the thing the person was actively working on was Solitaire.
But what are you suggesting? Getting rid of F1 help in GNOME terminal?
That's what I'm saying I would like to do.
But if you don't know what the client uses, if he has an old distro or a different distro,
Right.
if he's
Right, absolutely. And actually, Yobu responds to F1. It's just the F1 never actually makes it to Yobu because GNOME terminal steals it and uses it for itself.
Actually, it's the window manager that does it, and it grabs whatever application runs in.
Okay.
It's all in the, it's not even in the GNOME terminal, it's the window manager that grabs it.
Interesting. So it would have to special case then, even for GNOME terminal.
Yeah, or we have to move it out of the window manager.
Oh, am I taking too much?
Yeah, no, it's just that we're trying to...
Okay.
Just a small thing,
Yeah.
again on the Ubuntu EU. I think it should be orange, shouldn't it? The background?
Instead of purple?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the purple is canonical.
So I only have 16 colors to play with. Orange is not one of them.
'Cause we went there, didn't we?
We did.
do an orange?
And there's no orange. There's a red and there's a yellow, but there's no orange.
I'll send you the orange.
Okay. But what color are we going to remove?
You cannot use it. You cannot use
It
it.
doesn't have
It's available only 6 months.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I'll help with that. But yeah,
It's, Marcus, the problem is we have a very restricted environment here. It's not in the palette. So all the colours that we have in the palette, we have to choose one that's...
So you're still able to find X values for the palettes, aren't you?
okay, so that's another advantage.
That's what we...
That's another advantage that we have of the new backend, the TMUX backend, is that we do have 256 colors, and we can actually do an orange. That's a great idea. That's a great suggestion. We couldn't do that with the old one, the 2-line one. The 1-line one supports UTF-8, so we're looking at the UTF-8 stuff here. Now it's all garbage stuff. But that, yeah, these colors I need to update to what Marcus helped me with last time, and there is an orange in there, so that's a great suggestion. We could go
also
on.
wondered if...
I would maybe just write Ubuntu and not have the release. Because the U on its own reminds me a bit of Ubuntu 1.
Why don't we...
That would look simplified more better, wouldn't it? And at the cost of like losing 1110 to have the full text, I think that...
Well, why don't we, when we get back, have a look at that scenario there of the Ubuntu, the U, and the circle of friends, and see whether we can
Yeah, that'd be
come up with
great.
something
Yeah,
that would be more readable,
right.
more legible.
Think like 4 characters here is about the width that we have to play with. So if even like a double wide Unicode, I don't know if you have plans to do a double wide Unicode circle of friends, but that'd be great.
Yeah.
Possibly.
If it wasn't meant to be a big one, but I didn't know whether it would be in the wonderful. Or
Yeah.
we could make it, we could have it put in anyway.
And we've also
Yeah.
got white. I mean, so I've also toyed with the idea of like white, so orange on white.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like we're getting distracted from your objective of adoption. And here, this is like for once you've adopted it, it would be cool that it's free. But I think the early adoption, one idea that comes to mind is instead of doing the usual, here's how you get help, and the message of the day that appears, perhaps a very quick and perhaps dynamic way of saying how this is useful for me. This is like not how I can be a better sysadmin or a better cloud administrator with this tool.
Well, but the user should be explicitly is interested on the on exploring this. In some cases, people just want to go there, throw 2 lines of code, regardless, they don't want to.
Is there an option for a message of the day then?
Maybe they're not interested there.
Could that not be shortcut of the day?
I'm trying to get it out.
Yeah, there is a message of the day plugin, which
And that could be today's
tips,
shortcut.
yeah.
Is there a way of calling all the shortcuts? Like showing, you click on a
It
like
would be,
where it says menu F9.
Right,
you
right
have
now it would be
shortcuts F9.
F9 help, and then I can add to this, or I need to add to this, because now all the split screen stuff.
Because people that use this kind of terminal interface, they're used to just writing like 2. At least that's what I think. Writing 2 characters and then a bunch of text comes up.
Yeah.
So if you have like a shortcut to showing all shortcuts.
You know how you were showing initially you can split view as you want into multiple windows. Could the default view for a new user be a 2-window view where you have 60–70%, so it's still a reasonable width. The help, all of it is written down the side.
The first time, that's a great idea.
And then you turn it off if you don't want it, but otherwise it's always down the side.
I like that idea.
It automatically goes into 2-window view.
Yeah.
But for adoption, you have to look at what is the one or two main things that people want or will be able to do with this that they can't do anywhere else, and really feature that.
It would be one thing that people have in 2 windows.
I just wonder, who is the user for this? There's just, people who administrate like you, hundreds of
Developers,
devices.
administrators.
Or can be anyone who maybe the first time we use a terminal or SSH connection.
We get a lot of early, I want to learn how to use the command line. Someone hears, oh,
in
use
case they're not
this.
so interested about all this complexity. Maybe
not.
This is all two lines of code.
That's why I thought maybe it wouldn't be too intrusive if it just had like the list of commands down the right.
Well, I guess
you can kind of imagine a bit like that.
I guess the main aesthetic term is important when you're a power user. I guess. So in the case actually if somebody's not interested, actually it's no big deal. So
no, then you just leave it there, I think, and just get on with what you should do.
I like that idea. I can work with that.
One other last contribution which might or might not help, but it would be very useful in whatever form it comes to have some sort of overview of things that are happening if you can't see them. Because I can see I have the tabs and there might be processes that, require attention or fail, or I don't know what, but if there is a way that you can kind of alert to something going on, not in the immediate view, or if there is another view that can give me a summary of what's going on, some sort.
Sure.
I don't know how it would translate it purely textual.
Some of those are, to some extent, the actions, the things that are happening are indicated by the trailing characters of what's in each window. So the asterisk and the highlight says I'm looking at this window right now. The fact that this one's in bold means that was the last one I looked at and that something else happened. If I go to one of these and tell it to do something, I tell it to do something, maybe sleep 10, and then I come back over here, that sleep one should light up or something's going to happen to it after 10 seconds. Maybe I'm lying. But if you're downloading an ISO, for instance. Okay, there you go. Yeah.
But do you really need tabs?
Excuse me?
Do you really need tabs here?
Oh yeah, tabs are critical to what this is doing, for sure. It's allowing you to multiplex a whole bunch of terminals into one interface.
So that's what you have already here.
On your desktop, if you could only do one thing at once, it's the same.
I like a reference website that details all of this stuff, right?
Right. Yeah. That was what came up when we did it's not showing now, but it printed a link that goes to.
And people are not using that.
They are to some extent. That's the best practice. I'm happy with that.
So it'd be interesting to see what that's like. Maybe that's where.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I mean, do you have analytics here?
Could be made as well.
Do you have analytics? Do you know how many people are seeing this page or stuff like that?
I don't know. I'd have to check with James, but I mean, the quick start is how to enable and disable it, and that's what people who come here and they're pissed off want to know is how do I turn this off. So that's right up top, and other ways of disabling it, and then an explanation of what this funny thing is at the bottom of my screen is. And so, in as brief a term as possible, here's how to do that. And then the most basic command, and I'll try to start from the most useful down to some of the more esoteric ones. But
yes, maybe to put those in context would be helpful as well, I guess, because otherwise you're reliant on your interpretation of the explanation. If you had like a little screenshot and highlighted, and it's like, this is a window, and this is a. I think that would be really, to show like a full screen, and have like 1, 2, 3, all the way around the edge, and show all the features, detail all the features on one screenshot.
One screenshot.
Okay, so as soon as you
like callouts and
like 1, 2, all the way around the edge of different numbers, and say this is this, so that immediately everybody knows what you're referring to in the future as well.
Also, as soon as you log in, you have these two panels. You can actually show 1, 2, a bit of animation to show actually the different things. But I think in general, you need to understand a bit better your users. And try to collect data, so asking of surveys or analytics or user voice kind of plugins to get feedback.
Cool.
Do you have a printable cheat sheet as an option?
Yeah,
it's a bit old-fashioned.
User voice.
Yeah.
You can stick on the wall. Printable cheat sheet.
That's it. No, I know. That's a good idea. Yeah. There's a little PDF that you can print and stick up. I like that. Little cheat sheet. Cool.
might be WordPerfect activated over your F keys, sell on the Ubuntu store.
Nice.
Dustin, can you run then with no arguments real quick?
Inside of here?
Yeah. Can you do something like that when you first run Vue?
So it's like emblazoned in the background.
Yeah, that's good too.
And then it overwrites as soon as you start doing, or as soon as you start doing something.
Yeah, that's nice. I quite like it. For new users, I quite like the persistence of having a script. I
think that'll make sense too. And it'll force you to the splitting aspect, which is cool.
If you had that split window before
well,
you start typing
as well. I think.
Yeah, but this is quite invasive though. It's quite invasive.
It disappears as soon as you start typing.
Yeah, people want to go and look at the fix and we're looking at something else.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look at the good code to see how they did that. It's kind of
that's why
it's really more subtle, you know.
So they can.
My hunch is
there should be something
primary developers who want to cloud users. They should factor it for widespread so they can get back to exactly where they were. And I think that's the single thing you should look at promoting in terms of the cloud.
Okay. Do I have what? LibreOffice, I do.
Can I just use your machine?
I've got to get to another session.
Okay.
Sorry.
Actually, I don't know if we have time.
We've got 15 minutes.
15?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate it.
So, I want to show you something about the project of mine. Very tiny user interface. And that's LibreOffice.
So quick this one, no more. I'm sure we
So I guess since LibreOffice is like we could talk a few months about the user experience of it. I would suggest we limit ourselves to first writer as one application and then just the menus. So we could probably talk like a week about that already.
Well, yeah, I think there probably is a bigger conversation to have because I've been talking that I think, suggesting that I think it's key that we create like half a dozen core applications.
Yeah.
Because the shell is useless without quality applications to take people over from other platforms.
Yeah.
And I think we see LibreOffice as being quite key within that.
Yeah.
As a big, longer, ongoing thing, we really want to sort of look at sort of little refinements of the experience of like at least half a dozen big core applications that all function identically and feel seamless, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know, I hopefully that's something that you guys will be interested in.
Yes, of course. So actually, I'm working upstream at LibreOffice, but I'm a developer, I'm not a designer. So I'm awfully helpless in that area. We have a design team. We have a few user experience experts, but we also have a code base that's more than 10 years old, so there's a lot to clean up there.
Although I think that we would be best.
Can we look at the menu? I mean, we can have this conversation.
Yeah.
Offline.
I'll try to do it. Just, can we see something?
Not yet.
Yeah. So, just get right over there. So here. So let's just look at writer. And I just walked through the menus yesterday and took a look at all the things that I immediately came up with being strange to me. And I wrote an email to one of our design guys and asked him about that. And actually, all the things that seemed obviously wrong to me had some reason behind it. Some were still historic reasons, but still. So let's just get started. if we look at the file menu, the first thing that I came up with as weird is that we have save as, export, and export as PDF as 3 separate points on that menu. And why not just make that one?
Yeah, no, this is exactly the sort of thing I was suggesting, you know, with us wanting to align core applications so that even things as simple as that, you know, so there's a logic to all of those menus, so you find the same things appearing in exactly the same place. So you've got that proper consistency. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
I think it is important to understand if your user experience.
Yeah,
so your time will be, you know.
So typically, like from what I tend to understand, like export as is it makes a copy. Whereas when you save something as some other format, I assume that then what I'm using is that format that I just saved it as.
Yeah.
So typically I export something as a PDF to then send to someone, but I assume I'm still working on
the previous one.
The previous.
Yeah, that's exactly one of the reasons why there are two entries. Export is pretty much formats that we can write to but not read again. So and to make that visible to the user, they were separated here, but the question is, couldn't that be done in the save dialog? So you have one save dialog for all of these, and then could explicitly select, yes, I want to have an export format, yes, I know. Yeah, just like
you just see the two documents at the end of it, so you have the new one on top, so you know that where the original and where the new one is.
Yeah.
You know.
So then we have, for example, what I also thought, well, for example, we have here properties that are here, and we have statistics here, which are the word counts and stuff like that, and actually the same stuff is again here for a second time. So probably this duplication is somewhat useless. But actually I read a mail today on the mailing list, someone fixed this whole word count thing to actually, you could mark something and get a count from the user interface and not a pop-up that is modal and all that stuff. So that might actually be solved. I haven't looked at that yet. And it's just, I will just trace through all the menus now for a little overview. Here, for example, I find Exchange Database in the edit menu. Does anybody here know what it does?
No.
I opened it, I don't know. I got this dialog. I got an idea what it could do. So it's probably the data sources for mail merge documents. So if you are doing serial letters and stuff like that, so but
addresses for auto-completion of
yeah, if you've got write one letter and want to send it to 100 people or something. So my point of view would be if something like that should maybe be moved to tools with because the average user wouldn't really be concerned about that. Then we have view. I don't know if
mail merge under edit on Windows on Office.
Mail merge is, I think, here. Mail merge wizard.
So
there is definitely a big work of prioritization here that needs to happen. It doesn't mean that you need to remove it, but maybe you can start having more sub-menus, I guess.
Yeah.
Definitely if someone just scroll with a pointer up there, it's very scary. Many options, many functions.
Yeah. For example, you also have here like tools, footnotes, endnotes. If you open that up, you get numbering, so that's actually a formatting issue. It's not a tools issue.
Yeah.
So
it's the wrong group.
So it's again in the wrong area. Then I didn't understand what tools customize does. Does anyone here can guess?
Does that change what you've got in the toolbar?
The toolbar.
Yeah, it is setting up toolbars and stuff like that, but
it's in a strange place where might it possible.
It's I would assume to find that in view because all the like status bar and all that stuff is there. But the reason from user experience I got why that is in tools is because it's in Microsoft Office.
It is there. It is there.
So?
It is there as well. At the bottom, if you go to
toolbars.
Yeah.
Toolbars.
Toolbars.
Not there.
Yeah, go to the end of that.
Yeah.
Customizes at the bottom.
Yeah.
That's the same menu then, is it? Or?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
In my opinion, I wouldn't put it as a view customized, just because sometimes view is quite related to the document that you're editing.
Yeah.
So actually that one is more, I guess, global.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of distinction that you have.
I mean, something that's a little bit confusing for me there is having so you've got something that we know is a toolbar, but it's not labelled as a toolbar, that's just how we recognise it. But then you've got a tools menu with the edit functions for the toolbar. Can you not put that edit thing coming from the toolbar itself?
You mean something
so you've got,
like this?
Yeah, you've got it there as well. Okay.
Customized toolbar, and actually you have again all the toolbars. Actually, this same.
Oh, is that just for the one toolbar though, or is that for both?
No, you go here for customized toolbar, and you get this toolbar, but you can also from this dialog edit all the other ones.
Right.
Which is not really needed.
Yeah.
And I mean, it almost needs something like a hide and show functionality of some sort. So
yeah.
It could be. We could be more interesting and sort of make it a little bit more dynamic in terms of hiding and showing or moving things around, and that is more of, where the actual icons are at the moment, rather than a very general menu for everything. So.
I think it really depends on your user, because if your UX person did that is there because in Office is there.
Yeah.
If your users are Microsoft Office users, then you have some dependencies,
and
some implications.
LibreOffice is in a way the migration path from Windows over LibreOffice or OpenOffice before that to a Linux desktop, because you first migrate the application to LibreOffice or OpenOffice on Windows, and after that you change to Linux, because there's no difference in the UI from that point on. So
you're limited here with your creativity, because we are all here would like to have a more simpler text editor, but actually if you want to be consistent with
How much is this trying to mirror the menu structure of Microsoft Office today, or is it trying to mirror the menu structure of Microsoft Office 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Well, it's not trying to mirror any structure. So this thing has grown. I mean, there has been a new feature, and it has to end up somewhere. So someone added it in somewhere. So, but in the beginning, of course, that was the reason for a few menu points to end up where they are.
For instance, now Microsoft Office just released a new UI. Right? They're using all this ribbon pattern, which is very different than this, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your intention? To follow that? Or to, now that's we have two options. Or we follow that, or we go for our own
that is
path.
another discussion. Since actually changing stuff here is other than for other applications. There are books written about OpenOffice, LibreOffice. There's documentation out there. If we change like one menu point at a time, we are outdating this documentation, and we are, for example, trainers who train enterprise users. We make their job very hard, and they're also marketeers for us. So if they have to say, well, you find that in edit blah blah blah, unless you have this version, unless you have that version.
Yeah.
So it's
does it work with the cadence? With the cadence of LibreOffice, or is it like Ubuntu? So you have an LTS kind of thing every 2 years.
We have with the LibreOffice we have now half-year cycles. So
it's aligned to Ubuntu basically.
Yeah.
So this recommendation will be do after the next LTS.
Yeah.
You're gonna branch it with a new LibreOffice beta.
Yeah.
And then you have 2 years to try to to refine it basically.
Yeah.
The other one.
So I don't know if there are other things. For example, autocorrect here is in format. Actually, it does some formatting, like underlining and stuff like that. But the fun thing is, for example, in Calc, maybe open the Calc view.
Definitely, what I would do is have a list of the primary use cases, the absolute priority tools, and strip everything out, just in like a sketch or something, and then work out where you could fit in the more advanced features. Because things like changing autocorrect, I've never done. And I can imagine you'd only do that once, maybe if it's something that annoys you about how you'd expect autocorrect to behave. So it doesn't need to be along with.
So I wonder if you can put analytics. Do you have analytics inside?
For user data?
Yeah.
For user data, how much what is
which
used?
functionality they use most?
Yeah, actually I implemented that at OpenOffice, so I was the developer who wrote that. And so the data was sent to OpenOffice. The data is not in the public domain. I think it's still, I don't know who's owner of that. It might be that Apache is now, it might be that still Oracle. We could enable the same thing in LibreOffice, but we have no server infrastructure to send that to right now. So we would need someone who says, we want to collect the data for you. And so it could be analyzed. But again, that would be in the end, what comes out of that is you would have to take care of that data, you have to regard the privacy of that data and all that. So it's...
there was this company, you know, that one analyzed, was school, university, they analyzed the GIMP. They analyzed the search in Google's. People having issues with GIMP, which was the most common question asked in Google. And also analyzed also with analytics what people were using.
So our design team would really be to have this user data again, and they are pestering me because I wrote that original implementation. but I said as far for now I had an easy excuse. We have no service, so I can I can work on that.
There was a question.
It seems that you have pretty clear ideas of potential improvements, and what I'm hearing is a lot of agreement that your ideas are on the right track. What I feel is the most unclear of what you want to achieve is the problem of moving mountains. You have this mountain of LibreOffice that has a mountain of developers, of trainers, and so forth. And I think that's where you're going to have the most problems. But I think you're like, it feels like you're on the right path of what you want to achieve, you know, the Express PDF, the customized option tools, and that. Everybody seems to be in agreement with that. But I think where you'll have, where you will need more help is in anything but the software. Is that a correct assessment?
Yeah, we in LibreOffice we are very much volunteer based from the contributions from the features. So improvements are quite a lot done by volunteers because the core developers like me just are doing all the stuff that you don't see. So the features are quite often getting done by volunteers. And what we don't want is that volunteers find, for example, a bug specifying a UI change, which just says, I want to have this button green or something. And nobody ever saw that bug. Someone else comes along, implements this feature as it is specified, and then the whole bike shedding discussion starts, telling this poor chap that he did everything wrong with the implementation. So the important part there is to get stuff that is going out to volunteers and going out to developers to a state where for example, the design team can agree on that right solution.
Okay. Listen, we're running out of session. Maybe that's a conversation.